Good morning. Call to order the meeting of the Michigan State Capitol Commission for April 7th, 2025. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Pretty quiet morning, it looks like, in the Capitol. And we'll start out with the Secretary Marvin. Would you please take the roll?
Chair Candler?
Here.
Vice Chair Bauer? Here. Mr. Bullman?
Here.
Mr. Hobbs? Mr. Oberlin?
Here.
Mr. Starr?
Here.
5 members are present.
That's a quorum. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is establishment of a future meeting date. We've talked about a couple different dates. As of right now, we're talking about May 12th of the 12th of next month. Anybody have a problem with that date? Again, if we have to adjust it as we get closer, we can do that. And if we don't have any business, we may not even have to have a meeting then, but we need to have a target date. So we're going to go with May 12th at this point, there being no objection. Next item is approval of the minutes from March meeting. Anybody have any comments, questions, concerns about the minutes? Have a motion to
Move that they be.
Commissioner Bauer moves.
Second.
Commissioner Oberlin seconds. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Unanimous consent. Thank you. Moving right along. Moving along now to the report of the Executive Director, Rob Blackshaw. You want to come up and bring us up to speed on your work? All your good work.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for having me this morning. I will go through a short list as compared to I always say this every time, as compared to the number of projects that we have going on, to give you an update of what's happening here at the Capitol building. The first thing I'd like to talk about in your folders, you will see a couple layouts. One of them is a landscape master plan phasing plan. One of them is a planting plan. The other one is a tree removal plan. To give you a little history on this, we had a landscape master plan that was started by architect Dick Frank after the restoration of the Capitol in the early 90s. That stood in place until 2023. We revisited that landscape master plan, had our landscape architect Beckett and Rader modify it, revise it based on the new grounds. And when I mean the new grounds, by the addition of Heritage Hall, the additional sidewalks on the west side, and the removal of the west parking lots. It was at that time we've modified the landscape master plan that was adopted by the commission in 23. But the intent of the master plan basically stayed the same, is to go back to Mr. Oliver's landscape plan right after the building was opened in the 1870s, to follow through with an alley of trees around the perimeter, 1 to 2 rows, and eventually by attrition remove the trees that were planted on the inside to open the grounds back up, kind of like we see illustrative on the west side today. After reviewing this plan and having a couple conversations, we did go back and talk to Beck and Rader and said we need to phase this, and you'll see on the removal plan that there are some red highlighted areas that we thought might be a good place to start as far as removals go immediately. But even that we think may be a little bit obtrusive. So I just wanted to show you, this is our phase 1 planning. There's going to be more conversation. I was going to come to the meeting today and ask for permission or a vote to start removing these right away, but I do think that this is too big of an impact for us right away. So what I'm going to do after this meeting, and I'm fielding all your questions and concerns, I will go back to the landscape architect and talk about this fall having a tree planting and tree removal plan that coincides with each other immediately, and not to the degree that is illustrated on these plans here, but focusing on a couple key areas by removing the trees that we considered hazard trees now, and then replanting those with some Michigan hardwood trees moving forward. I will open up for questions and concerns right now because I know this is a big topic of conversation, and I want to make sure that I gather all the correct information and intel from the commission before I move forward to discuss with the
Yeah,
architect.
thanks, Rob. Yeah, and it's important to know, again, this is a project that's going to be over many, many years. This is nothing has to be done overnight. We're not going to come in and level the grounds and plant new trees. It's going to take a decade to implement this, probably, so. But because of the way that the staff works, we always have projects ready to go to the next one, the next one, the next one. So we have this one in the pipeline. By the fall, we want to be ready to go. I mean, the staff actually, in a project like this, they actually even go out and like look at the specimens, the specific trees that we're going to purchase to put there to make sure they're the correct, the best tree, the best health, et cetera. So it takes quite a bit of time. So this is quite a bit of lead time, just letting everybody know what the project is about, what they plan to do. So, any questions? Scott?
Thank you, Rob. I was just curious, this might be a silly question, but is there an estimate what size the new replacements will be? We're talking like baby saplings, or are they?
We usually try, if you look at the trees that we planted after the Heritage Hall project on Allegan Street, we try to go 3 to 4 inch caliper, and depending on the tree, up to 6 inch caliper. So the caliper is the diameter or the width of it. We try to get it so they're hardy when they come on the grounds, and then they can grow into it. So we try to get, I'd call a mid-level range immediately.
Commissioner Bauer?
And I have to add, those trees, which I have to admit I hadn't really noticed, but I went, walked the grounds and all that, they look great, and they have, so how long ago did they go in, Heritage Hall?
It's been a couple years.
Couple years.
I
Were
wanna
they-
believe. I think it was
I mean, I think they look
23 or 22. Yeah.
along the edge, and that's eventually what the plan will be, that we'll have more, but I think that they look really good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions on the tree issue? Go ahead, Rob.
So just to reiterate, what I will do, I'll come back to the commission in a month or two, and my goal is to have a 2025 plan to plant and remove for this fall. I will additionally come with a Phase 2 plan for the 2026, and we can make the decision whether to do that in spring and/or fall of 2026. But I'll have those two plans in front of the commission to make the decisions and help drive this project and start creating the phasing plan that's more palatable for the public view and for the commission as we move forward. Because as Bill did say, it'll take a good 10 years to complete this, and it may even take longer because we're not just going to remove a tree to remove it. We won't remove it until it becomes what we classify a hazard tree. And just to clarify that, hazard tree is a tree that will fell limbs. Like 2 years ago, we had our market out there, and one of the trees during the rainstorm fell and crushed a tent. So those are the trees we look at right away to remove any possible damage to folks and/or grounds. So,
Thanks, Rob.
okay, moving forward, I'll go to our summer projects. And the summer projects, a couple of them, as the one that's hardest to miss is the glass floor. Today, we have Lansing Glass and Lansing Glass Company who's doing the installation, and they're meeting with Lucid Glass Studio from Rhode Island. These are the folks who are actually making the glass for us. They're on site today just to finalize the degree of the installation methods. As you can see, we are really focusing on the minute details on this. So this collaboration today will make the final decision of the tolerance or the gap between the iron and the glass, and then what type and color of the grout will that be used when we install it. The trick here is to make sure that the grout is clean and new, but doesn't look different from any of the grout that's existing, so it's obvious what was replaced and what was not. Our goal is to really have it, when it's finished, blend in the pieces that are original and are staying, to have the new pieces blend in and look as close as possible as what's going on. So again, this is a phased project 2. I would say by Memorial Day, the first phase will be completed. This phase is taking a little bit longer, just because we want to make sure, as I said, pay attention to the detail, and then the phases after that will just starting to be because of time and how many pieces you can make in a month period in installation. So once we get to the first, let's just say Memorial Day, then it's every 2 months. And then once we finish, there's 5 phases total. So I would say by January, February of next year, that project should be complete. Another project that's more behind the scenes that's happening this summer is the Senate chamber toilet rooms. We did the House chamber toilet rooms or restrooms last year, and this is just updating the wood, updating the basins, making sure that the floor is intact. And I know there's a large coffee station back there that the wood is in very bad condition. So this will all be done this summer when there is legislative recess. We will work closely with the Secretary of the Senate to make sure it doesn't interfere with any legislative activities that are going on back there. The West Side Rain Leaders. So this project, the West Side Rain Leaders, is basically the same thing that we did last year on the east. So just to recap everything that happened last year on the east, we had a caved-in rain leader or a roof drain that no one sees. So the roof drain goes from the roof through the building into the ground and into the storm sewers. Well, one of those collapsed and we had a very large sinkhole. Once we realized how big of a project this was, we had to unearth, work through all the DOAS ductwork and all the underground utilities just to reconnect the rain leaders on the east side. We started reviewing the rain leaders on the west side. Now, ever since I've touched this building, which is 1990, there's always been the rumor that there was a live spring under the building on the west side. And any time it rained, you would definitely see water on the sub-basement of the west side. That laid true for a long, long time until we unearthed the ground to put in Heritage Hall and realized, well, there's no spring here. But after it rained, we would still have water down there and actually had to install sump cracks. Well, after more investigation, we realized that some of the abandoned rain leaders or drain pipes on the roof to the west weren't necessarily abandoned, they were just collapsed and broken. So you can start, you can see where I'm going with this. When it rained or we had large spring thaws, it would saturate the ground, the water would run back through the underneath and get into the west. So now we are really working diligently to find a solution to how do we reconnect the west side drains, because as you know, we have electrical duct banks in there now, we have a Heritage Hall, we have a lot of infrastructure that we didn't have before. So it's now trying to figure out how do we get the water from the west side of the roof to the storm sewers successfully without having to dig up half the west lawn, which would be now surgery, not just a backhoe going in there, because of the electrical conduits, because of the DOAS ductwork, because of the Heritage Hall infrastructure. So it really is a surgical operation, so we're looking at every means possible. We do think there might be an opportunity, which may sound a little crazy, but the most successful solution is actually taking that and bringing it inside to an interior drain that runs through the building and out to the storm. So we're looking at every single possibility for a best solution, not only from an economic standpoint, but from a physical standpoint of what's going to be the less obtrusive to the physical Capitol building itself and the grounds. So with all that said, I have no more to update, but that is something that we are diligently inspecting, and I will come in the next few meetings to give you an update on how that will impact the building one way or the other. As I move down the list of projects, the governor's office windows, as you're aware, we will be installing the new ballistic windows in the governor's suite this summer. And these are replacement windows. These are not new. Our contractors were in the building over the legislative break. We pulled a couple of the windows to verify measurements and the sashes, and they put those back in place. So if you were to go up there, no one would know that these were removed over the break for measurement. But now that we have those measurements, we are going to take these to the manufacturer or the carpenters to now make the windows, put in new ballistic material, and have those installed this summer. So it's always important to make sure that we see this, because the governor's office is on the second floor in the east, and you will know right away when the windows are starting to be removed. People are going to ask lots of questions. The fourth floor decorative project, we have reviewed all the bids and we have selected a decorative painting vendor for the work. It is Evergreen Studios out of New York City. They have a lot of experience working in the Capitol on other occasions, and they have assigned a certain staffing that we really enjoy working with who've been here before. Matter of fact, they really work well with our decorative painters, and they still exchange work habits and tricks that is beneficial for not our staff and everything in the building. Additionally, their pricing was much more favorable than the other contractors who bid the project, so much so that we had an added alternative to finish a decorative section in one of the fourth floor west that we're able to do because the pricing came in so favorably. So anyway, we started erecting the scaffolding on the floor east side to start working on the ceilings there. So the whole fourth floor will be scaffolding. The contractors will be mobilized yet this month and begin right away. We anticipate a September finish if all goes well, but I will keep the commission updated on the progress of this important restoration project. We are working with our conservation and art team, and we have removed Governor Green from the wall to be conserved. Now, Governor Green was in the Republican caucus room, and working with the clerk of the House, we removed this and reposition other portraits there, so you really won't be able to know that it's gone. But we are sending him to our new Chicago conservator, Baumgartner Restoration, and once we choose a shipping company, we will have him on his way. We typically use a company out of Detroit, but our conservator has a couple other recommendations that he uses more frequently. He thinks they'll be able to handle the painting with more care and at a better price. So we're always up to hear, the benefits of that. A little bit about Governor Green. This portrait has never been cleaned, and it really needs it really bad. In fact, the varnish coat is really quite dark. So we know that the cleaning alone will be good. But once it is received by Baumgartner Restoration, they do a series of inspections and then come back to us with a, let's say, an a la carte list of, okay, to clean it, it would be this much. To repair the paint, if there's paint damage, it'd be this much. To remove the varnish coat and to put new on, it would be X amount of dollars. We're also asking to have the canvas lined, which will give it some more rigidity and added protection, therefore adding years of life to the portrait. So once we go down the road and perform all the conservation work on it, we will receive it back and it should have prolonged its life expectancy. Lastly, the frame also needs some attention, and that'll also be evaluated by the conservator, and he will make some recommendations for treatment. So Barb Thimudo and her team are really watching this closely as we're taking this off to Chicago. But again, we are working 1 or 2 paintings a year, and we'll continue throughout the entire building until we have them all conserved. In the months to come, I have asked, and I've mentioned this before, but I'll mention it again, Barb and her team are putting together a 100-year portrait movement plan. What this movement plan will be, I know you say 100 years, well, we don't have, but every 4 years at a minimum of a new governor being painted. Well, eventually, we're going to start filling the halls up, but we want to make sure that there's a plan of where the portraits go after they move, and we think it'll be very important to bring to the commission to memorialize this movement to protect where these paintings will go and where we not want them to go in the future to protect the historical fabric. So that is something for you to look forward to, a report and a plan moving forward. Our internal leadership team, which is like Val, Barb, and I, we will really look this over with a fine-tooth comb even before we present it to the commission for your feedback. I would like to talk briefly about this last Saturday. We had a very large rally, one of the largest rallies we've had in some time. In fact, over 2,500 people attended this rally on Saturday. This was the first big rally we've had since the building has been open in many, many years. So we worked hard with our internal team, Josie, the event coordinator, and our staff, and Michigan State Police and other security to make sure we were prepared for this in case all 2,500 people wanted to come in the building, which there's really no way to stop them because we are open. But with collaboration and communication and the right amount of signage and even having the event rent porta toilets outside, a lot of people stayed outside. Again, we're not trying to deter them from coming in, but that number of people to come in would have been overwhelming. We did have a larger deployment from Michigan State Police, and we had a lot of our staff on site. But I'm happy to report no damage was incurred to the building or the grounds, and there are 2,500 people on. So it was wonderful that this all worked out really, really well. But again, it all because of the collaboration, communication, and the advanced preparation that our teams took to make this event a success. So I'm really happy to announce that. I think that is all I have to offer for today, but I am open for any questions.
That's a good amount. Anybody have any questions?
Just
Mr. Bauer?
when I came in today, some of our people were out cleaning up the sidewalk where I think people had chalked or something. But it struck me, you know, all the years that I've been to rallies many a time, both as a legislator, as a citizen, and then till this morning walk in again, and it looks like we never had anybody on the grass. I don't know how we can do that, but I think everybody needs to be commended that we can have, and as many of us know, during the legislative session, there might be things, especially, I mean, in temperate weather, but there are things every day on the lawn and groups of people and gatherings, and we're able to clean that up as if nobody was there. So I just want to say, it just struck me today, especially when I saw them out there already dealing with anything that had been on the sidewalk. So wonderful job.
I think it's a test to the commission that has allowed us to selectively pick our staff over the last few years. Our turnover is at an all-time minimum, and that really leads into them learning and able to enact everything they've learned, continue to make the building look better. So I think we're in a very good position when it comes to that.
And I was here also on Saturday, and here with Executive Director Blackshaw, and we, just watching the staff, everybody was prepared, well coordinated, coordinating with the state police for security. Commissioner Bauer was here. It was really, again, as you said, that large number of people, everything went so smoothly, so great, and our staff is just so well trained and so cued into their mission. It's just very impressive, and I hope people all appreciate that. It's very cool. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Is there any other business that we should bring up from the commission? If not, we do have one person from the public asking to speak, Nicole Kenway-Biber. You have a comment you want to make? Welcome. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, Minageshigan.
Morning.
Nicole Kiwe Biber Nadijnaka Zwaganakasino Dawa Nishina Bekwe Mishike Dodem Wabananong Nadago. So I'm a tribal citizen of the Little Traverse Bay Bands of Odawa, Harbor Springs, Petoskey, Cross Village area. I've been living in the Lansing area since 2007. I'm one of those people who came to go to MSU and just stayed around. So I'm happy to be here. I wanted to, and it was exciting that there's the landscape plan was on your agenda this morning because I am often at the Capitol building. And first of all, thinking about the trees, some being removed, I can understand that if some feel dangerous, but they really, I hope it's a really selective sort of, thoughtful thing because they do provide really needed shade. So I don't know if some could just be limbs instead of the whole tree, but of course I didn't see the plan. I'd love to be on your commission though. So, but I did want to mention, I was really happy to hear that it's going to be Michigan hardwood trees that are the new ones being planted. I think that's wonderful. And thinking about the 1800s, the aesthetics were different back then, right? When the sort of new plans were around, kind of the aesthetics of the landed gentry in a lot of ways. So kind of, expanses of turf grass, which I can, understand certainly in that front lawn is necessary because we do get a lot of protests. And again, and thanks to the staff for making that a great experience, helping to, on Saturday, I was one of the many participants, and I'm proud of all of us for making that a wonderful, peaceful experience as well. But those kind of individual specimens and more so imported ornamental species, that was kind of the go-to. I don't think people could have foreseen the loss of pollinators that we're now experiencing. And, and thinking about with the trees, and the importance of having those be Michigan native species, I think I think about the trees often and, you know, always intuitively, but now even scientifically, it's proven that they can kind of experience loneliness, which I was interested to see as a scientific study. But I think the purposeful increase in Michigan native plant species on the landscape would be a really important step to take for the planning of what the grounds look like around the Capitol. You know, and that's thinking about wildflower species that are Michigan natives, even shrubs, and it can include grasses. There's native grasses, you know, that feed a lot of birds and whatnot. And I did notice on Saturday where there were some grasses popping up in some of those beds, you know, that are out there. People didn't step on those quite so much as they did on the ones that are on the, you know, leading up on the sidewalk. So even if there were some native grasses that in the spring kind of come up right away, it might, you know, help it not get quite so muddy. But, you know, even with flowers, there's ways where the size and the height would be appropriate, you know, for the areas. I think about Wild Type Nursery. It's a really beloved local business, you know, a native plant nursery in the area. And so, you know, think about that purposeful increase in Michigan native plant species. It'd also be really educational. You know, we'd be taking a pride in the particular plant life of our state, which I think would be a really nice match to our Capitol building. The butterflies and birds that those plants also draw, you know, that's, they're just awaiting a welcome, I think, you know, a return of their forage, you know, a return just to their homes for them to come back. So maybe if it could amend the plan to uplift native species if it's not already, maybe even add extended, like, meadow habitat where there is space, like maybe on that west side or over by that wall where there's the Heritage Center, because, you know, it'd be less mowing, but also I think more peace of mind. You know, like there's lots of studies that show like time in green space, seeing like little even, you know, wildlife like butterflies and bees really help people feel better in terms of mental health. So I'd love to see the Capitol building kind of model and help shift the norms to like a renewal of the truly Michigan aesthetic, you know, of our beautiful Great Lakes and with the plant life returning, and as well as those small, necessary, and very fascinating pollinators, you know, who accompany that sort of life-affirming landscaping. So, miigwech.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you coming here today. Anybody want to make a motion to adjourn? Commissioner Starr? Commissioner Bowman supports? Anybody opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you.